Okay, welcome all to today's session. Today we're gonna do a quick recap of whatever we have learned so far, and then we're gonna move forward to the next topic. So we invested a lot of time to learn about XPaths and the different locator techniques, right? We understood about 8 or 9 different locator techniques, and in those we also understood how do we write XPaths in a different way, the relative XPaths, absolute XPath, the how to get the XPaths from browser, which I do not recommend, but you can use them sometimes. And then we also understood about how do we traverse forward, and then we have traverse backward, right?
Yeah.
Now I want you guys to understand this, that whatever we are learning is not the only way to write XPaths. Okay, I think I already mentioned this before, that there are a lot of ways. If you guys join my advanced framework building workshop, which I generally take for 10 hours, like 5 hours 2 days, there I teach around 35 ways of writing XPaths, 35 different ways of writing XPaths. So whatever we have learned is to basically, I would say that solves our purpose. Okay, that most of the things I'm covering in this course, probably that solves our day-to-day automation. But keep your mind and thought process open, that there are a lot of ways to write XPaths. Okay, and like I said, I generally teach in my advanced workshop is more than 36 ways we generally teach to write XPaths. Okay, and similarly for CSS, so they are very pretty strong. And just it's like SQL, you guys would have learned SQL, basic SQL, select star from table and then join table and then do a lot of stuff, right? Initially when you learn basics, it solves a purpose, but when you want to write more fine-tuned queries and all those things, you explore more and more. Correct. In similar fashion, XPath is also like that. But believe me, whatever we are learning, most of those strategies, if you try to implement, you will able to write your end-to-end automation. Okay. Fine. Moving ahead, these are some methods I want you guys to explore. These are the methods directly given by Selenium folks, so that we can directly get any attribute value if you want to extract, right? That you can extract the value directly from it. So get attribute and get text methods are kind of inbuilt methods. There are a lot of such methods. Just try to explore. Okay. The next thing I wanted you guys to know about is difference between find element and find elements, right? The find element and find elements, as you know, so far what we were doing, our always intention is to find one element, right? And for that one element, we were writing our strategy, either ID or CSS or XPath or whatever. So that the intention is to locate one element. Sometimes it may not be possible, sometimes you may not able to detect, or you may not able to get one specific element. So in that case, what you do is you get all the list of elements. Okay. When you use find elements, just a minute, I'm getting call. Okay, so I'm back now. When you use find elements, what you do is you get more than one element, right? Now when you get more than one element, you can't simply store in a web element object, right? Initially, when we used to capture only one element, we used to store that in a web element object. But now when you get more than one element, then you need something called as list. It's a collection framework concept. But yes, consider it as more than a bucket which contains a lot of elements, right? So when you use find elements, the rest of the things are same. You can use the locator strategy. So what the locator strategy, right? Like you write XPath on the page, and if that XPath results in let's say 10 different elements, right? When you see 1 of 10, which means your XPath is not unique. Your XPath is giving you 10 different elements, right? When you capture all those 10 elements and then do something on it, let's say iterate over it, and then do some more operation to go over and get the unique one. In that case, you capture all the elements in the list. So how do we write this? It's pretty straightforward, nothing different. So let's say here, when we were saying driver dot, just say find element, you will see find elements, another method, right? And here only you see what it returns. What it returns? List web driver, web element, right? Even if you don't remember the syntax, you should know the correct approach, right? So just double click on this and you will say, okay, it needs argument. Basically, it needs the locator strategy, right? So you will say, okay, by dot, let's say ID, and then you will give some ID, and then you want to store this output of this. Hover your mouse, and then you will say, okay, it returns what? It returns list web element, right? So you type, okay, list, and then you say web element, and then say elements equal to. So here you just need to import web element, and then also import the list. So you import the list from util Java package. Now you see this elements, this is going to contain all the elements which matches with that particular ID, right? ID. And once you get that element, what you can do now, if you just type element dot, now you see there are a lot of different methods in it. Okay, so one method is these are the some basic methods you can use, to understand how many elements did I get. So let's say dot size, right? Dot size will give you, okay, if it captures 10 different elements with that ID, then okay, you will get that size. If you want to get first element, right? First element's attribute. Are you getting my point? So you'll say dot get. So let's say get is, and here I'm saying first element, right? Then dot, and then get attribute. Rest of the thing continues. You're getting my point? When you say this, this is a normal element, and then you can apply anything on that, like get text, get attribute, get whatever. Correct? So that strategy continues from here onwards. Similarly, you can also do an operations, like once you get dot click operation, right? Or as such, or if you want to write a for loop. So what you will write, let's say for int I equal to, let's say 0, right? I less than, how many times you want to iterate, whatever the size, right? So I'll say dot size, correct? If it's giving me, let's say 10 elements, I want to go over all 10 elements, and then I'll increment I each time. Now in this for loop, what I'll do, let's say I want to make sure that I get a first element. So how do I do it? Or I want to print each element. How I'll print it? Element. How I get a first element? Dot get. When you say get and then you say I, it will give you the first, like 0th element, right? Dot. Okay. And then let's say if I want to see the text, I'll say get text. That's it. Now here, if I run this code, it will print the get text of all 10 elements. Let's assume that it is giving me 10 elements, right? Okay. If this strategy is giving me 10 elements, then what it will do for loop, it starts with 0. I think it should start with 1. Okay. And then it will come here. It will say I value is 1, get text of first element, then the next iteration, then the next iteration. It will continue till the size of this element, right? Okay. Similarly, you can do a lot of other things inside this for loop. I'll get good examples to show you guys, but yes, just to nothing different. See, when you use get element, right? Internally, what happens? I'll tell you. Internally, the driving method is get elements, find elements. Sorry, when you use find element, internally it also calls find elements, but it returns, when it returns, right? It returns. If you see the implementation in Selenium, it returns like this. The first element it finds with that locator technique. Okay, right now I don't have any return, but so internally, if you see the implementation of it, it basically returns like this, hard coded first element, matching the technique. When you use find element. So don't want to go in that detail, but here the only difference I want you guys to understand is when you capture multiple elements, then you have to store it in list. When you capture one element, let's say if it's find element, then you don't want to use list, you just use the normal web element object, right?
So for the web elements, always I think for loop it will be there, right, Shora?
Most of the time, yes, you will need. Most of the time you will need, because you are getting more than one element, right? And you want to iterate over those elements. If you want to iterate over those elements, then see, let's say if you have some element, let me take an example. So let's say here only, okay, google.com. If I right click and do inspect, and then let's set id equal to input, right? Let's say, let me check if can someone help me? How do I write an XPath for the id equal to input? / input square brackets @ id equal to value, right?
Yeah.
What was the value? I forgot. Search. id equal to input. Okay. So here it will be id equal to input, right? Okay. I'm not getting anything. Let's say type equal to search. A very small screen, right?
Yeah.
Type equal to search. I still don't see.
That's fine. We add two elements, input and
Okay. Let's say and @ id equal to input. Still not getting it. What are we missing? Anyone? Okay, anyway, I don't want to spend time to write XPaths.
Double quote, I believe.
Yeah, so what I'll do rightly, just to show you guys. So if I use this XPath, let's say, if I use this XPath, then if it's returning me more than one element, right? And I want to compare its text value. So generally this input doesn't have any, display text. So let's say if let's go to somewhere salesforce.com. If I want to get text on anything, let's say product. Okay, you see this in between tags, whatever you see, right? This is the value which you will get when you use a get text, right? So when you get the span element, let's say if I take span element on this complete HTML, there may be a lot, right? Let's see how many of them. So if I just type span, right? How many of them? 1, 2, 397, right? Are you getting my point, guys? 397. So here, if I want to get all the elements using span, what I'll do? So let's say I'll say driver dot find elements by dot tag name, right?
Yeah.
And then in tag name, what is the tag I'm trying to get? Span, right? Okay, I'll say, can you get me all the elements on that? I'll say, okay. Then I'll store that in element. Then what element I'm interested in? I'll start with 1, go with the size. In our case, how was the size? 397, right? And I'm saying, okay, can you print the get text of all of them? If I don't want to unnecessarily increase the size of my log, what I'll say here is I'm interested in string element, let's say text equal to, what is the thing? Products, right? What is the get text? And then here I'll say if condition. I'll say if, can anyone tell me? Text dot equal ignore case, right? With element dot get the first element, get index first element, and the first elements get text.
Okay.
Now what I'm doing, I'm iterating over all of them, and the moment I find first, and I'll say, okay, let's say I'm saying, okay, found, something like that, or okay, available, or pass, or whatever I can say. I'll say element product text available on the page. And then here only, once I am done with my purpose, I don't want to iterate rest of the things, right? So for that, we use a break keyword. So break will come out of for loop. If this is not matching, then it will not even go inside a if condition, right? If I double click, this is the if condition. So break, of course, it will keep on iterating till this matches. The moment it matches, it will come inside and it will break. Okay. Once again, I'll quickly repeat how you can, whatever we are learning is one concept, but you have to think how we can join all of them, right? To write a better automation. And this is one example. When you use find element, or whatever technique you use, either tag name, ID, or whatever, once you get all the elements, you have to think what I have to do, what is my purpose, right? If your purpose is to identify the get text, then you will do like this. Or if your purpose is to, once you identify that, you have to click on it, then what you will do here, immediately once you identify that, okay, my element, I found that element, dot, you will get that element, whatever the current element is on, let's say I, the moment, and then dot, I'll say click on it. Are you getting this? This text, this text is to make sure that I have so many span elements, so I just want to get the products. This one. What is that?
I couldn't hear. There's a lot of disturbance actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So now we have.
Can you please repeat if you don't mind?
Yeah. So I'm saying find elements is nothing different. It just gives you multiple elements. Okay. And then when you get more than one element using a for loop, you have to iterate over all the elements, right? And you understand what is the size of those elements, and then you iterate over them one by one. And whatever you want to do on that element, based on either you want to click on it or you want to get the text of it, you basically write the condition. This is just one example that what I'm doing here is this. I want to make sure that it has, when I write a span, it has 397 element. On this entire HTML, I have 397 element with a span tag. I'm iterating.
So 5 means 397.
Yeah, there are 397 span tags. You see, this is one tag, then this is one tag, then there will be a lot.
But size of the element, if you say the size of the 397.
Yes, it will be 397 because we are getting all the element with the span tag, right? So I'll get the size as 397, and then I'm iterating over them till I get, when I use element dot get text, I know what I'm gonna get internally, whatever that span element contains, right? So I'm saying, okay, till you get this text, can you please keep on going it, right? The moment I get this, it will go inside if condition, and then whatever I want to do, either I want to click on it or I want to store it to another element. Let's say if I want to extract that and store it to another element. So what I'll do, I'll create another element here, and I'll say, okay, just then you say another element equal to, and then instead of click here, I'll just say get. That's it. Something like this, so it will get that element, and then it will store in that. I just need to import this. Okay, right? When I get that exact element and store it to another element, or whatever you want to do, you can do that forward. And then once your work is done, you don't want to continue iterating it, waste of execution time, so you will break it, right?
Okay.
One example about the get elements. Now, quick difference, probably can also be asked in interviews. What is the difference between a find element and find elements? The find element, it returns the first element it finds with that locator technique, right? Whereas the find elements is going to return you all the list of elements. If it matches only one, then it will return one. Throws exception as no such element found if there are no elements matching on the locator strategy. Okay. But whereas in find elements, it's going to return an empty list. This is very important for you guys to understand. Okay. If you are using find element, and if there is no element with that locator technique, then it will throw you no such element exception. We have seen this, right? Whereas in find elements, it's going to return you the empty list. So what the empty list is, this list is going to be empty. So if you just type this and then say is empty, right? Here you can check that whether whatever I'm getting is empty or it carries something, So you'll say if, let's say if you check like this, you will come to know whether it is empty or not, because this returns true or false. If you double click on this method will return you, just hover your mouse, it will return Boolean. Returns true if the list contains no element, right? So basically, if this locator technique is not giving me any element, this will return me true. If it returns true, it will this complete block will be true, which means it will go inside if condition, right? So this this thing you need to keep in mind. Okay, let's say next is it will not throw an exception. Okay, that you need to understand. It will only find one element, we know that, and it will find the collection of element whose match with the locator technique. And then because it only returns one, so there is no array concept here to iterate, but whereas here it returns web element with index number starting from 0. Okay, so here if you see this, we should be starting we should initiate the counter with 0, so that when you get the first element, it is the 0th element. Is this clear? Find elements. Okay. Okay, so before I jump on the drop down, let's go and do the quick understanding about GitHub. Okay, so I hope you guys can see my screen, right? Now, today we're gonna discuss what is GitHub and why do we need it, right? So I'm gonna not go in detail about because there is a lot of things I can discuss on that, but what we're gonna discuss is how we'll manage our own project going forward. So let's understand this first important thing. In a real world, it's not one person who is working on a project, right? There are multiple folks who will be working on it. So let's say I have this is a Joseph, this is, let's say, Ravli, this is Divya, or this is, let's say, Padma. You 4 folks are here who are working on a project, and your all intention is you are building something. Let's say he's building script 1. Let me say he's building script 1. And then this guy is building script 2, and then this guy is building script 3, then this is script 4. Okay, so you all are building different scripts, but the ultimate intention is you all want to store that in one, let's say, repository. Repository is nothing but kind of a, let's say, folder. Okay, so I'm saying repository, and then your ultimate aim is you want to, once you finish your script, you want to store it here, all of you, from all your machines, right? Now what will happen is there may be a case that whatever the Joseph is working on, a similar thing, let's say Divya is also working on, let's assume. Okay, so there may be things which both of you guys are sharing. So if that is the case, there will be a conflict, isn't it? So if you are editing one file, the same file even Divya is also editing. Let's say she is adding some more details in a specific file, and Joseph is also adding some more specifics in those files. And if you both want, final intention is to store that in one centralized folder, let's say on the Google Drive, then what you would do, either you will you will store your changes first, then you will ask Padma, hey, or Divya, that can you please get my latest changes, and then you add your changes on top of it, and then you store your changes. You're getting my point? Or what will happen, Joseph will say, okay, let me store my changes, and then you will say, okay, let me store my changes. So it will overwrite the Joseph's changes, and whatever the Joseph has done will get lost. There may be a case like this also, right? If you guys are working on a same file. Okay, that is the assumption. But to avoid this, or what you will say, okay, let's do one thing. Before even store it here, let ourselves discuss among ourselves, and then do the merge. You will say, okay, whatever I have written is kind of different than what you have written, so it's fine, let me copy paste your code in the same file, and then basically consolidating it, right? Then any one person will consolidate both of your changes, and then finally they'll put it on the Google Drive. So you understood all 3 scenarios? The first scenario is you are individually storing that file, both of you.
Yeah.
I think instead of saying script here, I should be saying here, I should be saying script 1 because we both are working on, let's say, same script. Okay. Right now, the first scenario is you both will try to push your changes. Other thing is you yourself will try to resolve it, or you will say, hey, it is good if I have 2 members or 3 members, but what if I have 10 members in a team, right? Or what if I have team members who are not in a same location, in a different time zone? Then do you think that kind of communication and that kind of resolving issues would be possible? Definitely not, right?
Yeah. Cool.
Because the code is not that straightforward. What we are discussing, it is not just one file which we are saying, okay, let me from my eyes and from my mind find out what change I did, what change you did, then merge them together and do all this stuff. We don't have that kind of expertise, or may not want to do that on our own because of team size or team location, or there is a lot of effort needed for that. And that is why there is something called as version control technology. Okay. Now, version control is a technology which helps us to do all these things automatically. Okay. You don't need to talk to each other. You don't need to say, hey, have you done your changes? Can I pull your changes and then apply blah, blah. You don't need to do that. Everything will be taken care by the version control. Or the first scenario where Joseph has added his changes, and then Divya has added her changes on top of that, and then it got overwritten, and then all those things. Even though if that thing happens, version control will maintain the history of each record so that we can pull back and then resolve the issues, right? In a simplest way, if you don't use any version control technology, just remember the way you write the test cases. You remember we used to write test cases and say, okay, this is 1.0 first version of the test case, and then you do some modification, you will say 2.0, right? Or sometimes you say v1.0 or v1.20, something like this, right? This is the simplest way to maintain different versions of a same document, isn't it?
Yeah.
Similarly, the version control technologies like GitHub, Bitbucket, SVN, these are all different technologies given by some different companies. What they do is they maintain all these kind of different versions of what is coming in, what is going out on their own. So you no need to understand that. You no need to get into those kind of issues. You no need to talk to each other that, hey, can we resolve our issues and all those stuff. Okay. Now, with that basic understanding, let's understand what is a Git. Now, like I said, there are different technologies or different companies who are providing this version control. One of the famous right now is the Git, which is open source, and it's also a paid enterprise version. What is a Git and GitHub? Git is the technology. Okay.
So the SVN also do the same thing, right? Same
Yes.
kind of.
Yes. So SVN is also one of the technology, but SVN is kind of old now. Okay. We do not recommend or do not use it. The latest is the Bitbucket or the GitHub, or there are so many coming in similar to GitHub. Now Git and GitHub, there are two things. Git is a technology which helps you to do the version control, right? Git is the technology which helps you to do version control, whatever we are talking about here, avoiding the merging, avoiding the overwriting, and resolving the conflicts, and then consolidating automatically, and then pushing. All those things will be taken care by the technology called as Git. Now, what is GitHub? GitHub, as name indicates, is the central place where you can store your code, right? So the Git helps you here to do your work, and then finally, what after you are done with everything, where you gonna store your work? In some remote repository, right? Which is on cloud. Let's say Google Drive in our case. GitHub is a repository. GitHub is the place similar to Google Drive where you will store your work. Are you getting my point? Once you are done with your merging, conflict, everything, whatever you have to do, you will do everything here. And once you are done everything here, the thing from here, the Git, the things will go from here to where? Hub. Hub is just a repository. Consider it as a bank of code, right? Finally, the code is gonna go from here to here, right? From Git to GitHub. And when you want to download a code or when you want to get a new code, how it will go? In a reverse way, right? It will come from GitHub to Git or your. Now, to make use of this version control, you have to first download this technology on your system, right? Each one of you on your laptops, you should have the Git. Git should be installed on your system. I will tell you how to check that. Once you install that Git on your system, which means now you have a technology which will help you to do a version controlling, right? And using that, you're gonna either push your code, pushing to the GitHub, or pull your code, okay? Or pull someone else's code. I'll talk about this different commands which we use in a GitHub regularly. So far, so good. You guys understood?
Yeah.
Okay. Now GitHub is just a repository. Now just to give you a sample about how it may look, I shouldn't be going here. Let me open my test repository. Or let's do one this. Let's say GitHub. Just type GitHub and then go to GitHub and then just say explore marketplace. Let's say. So there will be so many repositories, guys. Okay, so I don't want you guys to get confused. GitHub open source guide.
You just create a common access for this. So
that I'm gonna create. I'm gonna create one small repository for you guys to do the exercise today. But I just wanna show you sample GitHub repo. Okay, yeah, hello. Okay, good. Okay, so now you see this. Very good. Now this guy, whoever he is, he has created multiple repositories. You see, this is one repository, this is another repository, this is another repository. There are so many. They are distinct. When I say repository, they are distinct folders. Okay, they are distinct parent folders. Now if I go to this repository, just click on this. Now in this is the parent folder. In this repository, this is the list of files he have. Okay, this is the list of different code files, or these are the individual files, these are the folders. If I go to script folder, then you will see different scripts, and when is the last edited file, and then who edited it recently, when he did it, and then the revision history, and everything will be available. Okay, so this is a simple example of your repository. We're going to create our own repository, but in order to interact with this, we don't drag and drop files here. Okay, and we don't do download from here. Actually, you can do that way, but we do not recommend doing that. What we deal, all the files here will get updated when we use the technology called Git from the command line. Okay, we're gonna use some Git commands, or you can also use Git desktop. Nowadays, people also prefer using Git desktop. I'll prefer teaching you on the command line, which is kind of easy, and from the ID itself, like an IntelliJ or Eclipse. But you can also use Git desktop. There are various Git desktops available nowadays, which helps you to do the pull, push, merge, conflicts, and all those kind of different Git operations. Now here, whatever we're gonna do from a command line, ultimately our code will come and sit here. And then other team member will understand that, hey, there is some update on the repository. Then he'll try to work on your updated code. So he will try to download that. Again, he'll not come on this repository. From his command line itself, he'll try to get the latest code. And then he'll download and then do rest of the things. Okay. This is a simple high-level overview about Git and GitHub. Now, if you want to download a Git, it's pretty straightforward. Just to say Git download. I hope most of you should already have it, but if you don't have, just go to Git download, and then here if you see Windows or Mac, whatever it is, just download it. It's a very small, lightweight file. You can do it right away, and then quickly install it. Okay. Once you are done with that, go to terminal, or before even do that, go to terminal, type git --version. and hit enter. So if you are using Mac, it would be default already on your system. I think most of the Windows also comes by default. I don't know if you have enterprise Windows, if you're working with your company given Windows. If it's no, probably you may have it, but if you don't have, just go ahead and download it quickly. It's an open source, free to download. Okay. Once you type git -- version and check that, okay, yeah, Git is available on my system. The next thing for us is to start using that, right? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a repository for you guys right away.
Hey, sir, when I try to download the Git, it's showing some portable version. Portable, one is showing thumb drive edition.
Just a minute, I'll be coming there.
Yeah, for me also same thumb drive edition.
Just a minute, yeah. Add readme, add get ignore. I don't want licenses. Okay. Okay, so this is a sample repository I created for you guys. Okay. It's a private repository, so not everyone can see. But now I don't have anything on this repository. Okay. There is nothing, only one readme file, which is, which comes by default when you create a repository. It's like creating a bank account, right? I created a normal folder for you. Now I want all of you guys to clone this repository. When I say clone, you means you are basically trying to get the code, whatever is available on this repository, right? And because you want to contribute to the repository or may want to use that repository down the line. So first of all, before even you get an access, I'll have to add you guys as a collaborator, right? So what I want you, all you guys, I want your email IDs. ID? Yes, whichever you have used for your GitHub account. Okay. Yeah, follow the instructions. The git clone. Yeah. Save that if you want. And then authorize. Git, oh, you have Git credential manager. Maybe that's why. Okay.
Shaurav, I wanted to show you. I think I'm getting lot many things here actually.
We'll check. Okay, so your cloning is done, Joseph. Okay. So now if you go back to your user folder, that repository October 2020 should have been there, and that you will only find one file, which is readme. Can you refresh this folder? Yes. Okay. Which means repository is successfully cloned. Okay. Now you can stop sharing it, and Divya, can you share back quickly?
Okay.
Okay, then we need to run as an administrator then.
Yes. Sometimes you may get the issues.
Okay, I'm showing. See, I'm getting all this.
Oh no, go up. It means you are incorrectly written your command.
Git clone.
But what you want to clone?
The path you need to give from your GitHub.
Git clone and then the path of whatever repository you want to clone, right?
Yeah.
No, go to the browser. Go to the browser.
Browser.
I have copied it in.
Okay. Then git clone and then the repository. Yes. Hit enter. Sign in. You both have, I think, Windows 12 or something.
10.
Yeah. Authorize Git credential manager. At the bottom, you see.
One?
No. Authorize Git credential manager. Right. Yeah. Okay. Now go back to your command line. Okay. You also got that cloned. Okay. So go to that folder and check whether you have received the repository. in the form of folder. Users, here you should have that October batch 2020, right? Okay, so all of you have got the clone. Now can you stop sharing?
Yeah. Thank you.
No issue.
Stop sharing.
Okay, so now what you need to do, that repository is on all of your system. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna start contributing to that. Okay, what I mean to say, contributing. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So what I'll do, just for your understanding purpose, let's go to your Eclipse. Let me close everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that repository in my Eclipse. Okay, so I'll go to open project. Okay, then I'll say just not general. Okay, because right now we are just opening a general project. I'll say next. Or did I say new? Okay, no, I don't want new. So file, let's say open, or let's say import, and then I'll say general, and then file system, and then click next. And then here in the browser, I'll browse to that folder which I just cloned, right? Which is October batch, and then click open. And then I'll say, okay, this is the file, and then I'll select this. Need specific. Oh, sorry. I'm very sorry. I just need to open it. Actually, there is no import I'm doing here.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes, what is the top one? Why it's not coming? Okay, file, open, and then okay, let me open this, and then let me open this. Okay, so I opened that particular file from that folder, right? Now what I'm gonna do in this README file, here is the new line of code. I'm just doing some change in this file and storing it. Okay, the moment I stored it, now I did some changes to the file which I cloned, right? Now I'll go to that terminal again. Now here what I'm going to do is, first I'm gonna go to the repository, this October batch. Once I go to this repository, you will see in a green color, which will indicate that you are inside a Git repository. Okay. Now if I type ls, it will show me all the list of file under that repository. In my case, we have only one. Now because I did the change in that file, if I type git, this is the first command you should learn, git status. The moment you do git status, it will tell you what all files in a repository you have changed. Okay, so git status is showing me, okay, you modified this readme file. Did you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, now just stay there. I want to show you guys the flow. How does it work? Okay, now once you do any change to a repository file, once you do any change to a repository file, these are the stages you guys need to follow. Now final intention is to push. Let's say we are going from left to right. Final intention is to push my code to this repository. When I say push, I'm saying, okay, I just want to update my code in this repository, right? In our case, it is October 2020. This is my intention, that I want my code to come and sit here. This is the file I am changing. Let's say this is the file. This is the file I'm changing. Now, once you change any file, these are the list of commands you guys need to follow. One is you will say git status, which will basically tell you, okay, what all things you have changed. Once you are satisfied with whatever the git status is showing you, that it's saying, for in my case, it is showing me that, hey, you modified this file, right? If I'm saying, okay, I'm fine, because some files may be intentional, some files may be non-intentional, right? Or some files you may edit, but you don't want to push them. You don't want to commit them, right? So you will ignore them. How do you ignore? You will type git checkout. You see this? Git, you will say git checkout, and then you will give the path of that file, which will be given here. So you simply copy the path from here and you will paste it here, which will indicate that, okay, I don't want to go ahead with these files. Ultimately, finally, you will do this repetitively till you arrive till you arrive to a point where you are finally okay with what files you want to go ahead with. Are you getting me? This is the filtration process. Okay. In our case, we only have one file. That's why I have only one file. I'll show you one more file example. So let's say if I modified 2 files, but I just want to go ahead with one file change. So in that case, what I'll do, I'll use the command called as git checkout just to ignore that. Okay, just to ignore that hey, please don't go ahead with this file. And then once my final set of files are ready here in this case, then I will use command called as git add. If I use git add, if I want to, so what the add means. So what happens in a git, in this version control, there is something called as staging. Staging, what it means is, it doesn't matter what changes we have done, not every changes will be considered to go ahead with. That you have to decide with the help of git status and then git add, right? You will use git status, git add. If you use git state add dot, which will add all the files. If you use specific file, then you have to give the path of the file here. Git add path of the file. Okay. If you want to go ahead with one file, if you want to add everything, then you will simply say git add space dot, which will add all the files. Now where it will add all the files, it will add to the staging here, which is again on your system. Nothing is yet here. Okay, this is just a filtration system. This entire thing is filtering out what files you want to finalize to go ahead with, right? This you will do repetitively. If you want to ignore any file, what you will use? Git checkout. Is this clear? We'll do the practice of it, don't worry. So if you want to ignore any file, you will use git checkout, and then path of the file. Again, the path of the file will be indicated on that error message, whatever.
This path of the file means it's a local file in our desktop file or in the GitHub path?
No, on your system. Everything is on your system now. Okay.
Okay.
Everything on your system. So when you say doesn't matter. So let me show you. I'll show you a couple of file changes. So here, okay, let me do one thing. Here, what I'll do, I'll add new folder. Okay, in the repository, and then I'm saying test folder. Now you see under October batch, I added a new folder, right? Along with the README file. Now if I go to my terminal and now if I say git status, now it will tell me, okay, you modified this file and you added a new something called as new. You know, if I want to go ahead with both of them, so what I'll do, I'll say git add space minus, and then if I do git status, now it will show me whatever the new file. Oh, what are you saying? DS store? It was something else, right? Anyway, so whenever I say git add, it will show that, okay, these files are staged, which means they are ready to go ahead with. If I want to ignore any of this file, then again I'll say git checkout, and then I will give the right now, because I am in one repository, I'll say dot. Sometimes here it will be a path, and then if I again do git status, now it will show me. Oh, why I don't know why this file is coming, probably, but this is the file which I want to go ahead with. Okay. Now once you stage everything, once you say everything is in green, git add, and then you git status. Now the next thing is commit. What the commit means? Commit doesn't mean you are going from here to here. Commit means you are committing, you are finalizing your changes. Commit means you are finalizing whatever is in staging. You are finalizing those changes. So next command you need to use is git commit. So here what I'm going to do is, once I finalize my change, again git commit is nothing to commit with the repository. Okay, git commit means I'm committing, I'm finalizing my changes. So minus m, commit generally needs a message. Minus m is a parameter to pass a message. So I'm saying, okay, git commit minus m, in double quotes you will give some message. you'll say test commit, and I'll say, okay, can you please commit my change? What the commit means, whatever changes you finalize, that will go and sit in staging changes here. So once you are done with your git commit, here it will come and sit in the staging changes, which means you have finalized some changes. So now you see, when I say git, I'll say commit -m. -m is the message, and I'll say changes from Saurabh. Generally you give Jira ID or Rally ID or whatever here in this case, and then you hit enter. Then you say, okay, commit. But see, till now these changes are on your local system. Understand this. Most people get confused with commit and push. Commit is basically finalizing your changes to something called a staging, and then saying, okay, I'm good to go ahead with, right? You have finalized your changes. Now what is the final intention? You want to push your changes from here to here, right? So you need to understand the direction. The push command goes from here to here. The pull commands from here to here, right? Pulling, the pull the door and push the door, right? Push is to push in thing inside, right? So this is the push. Pull is get outside, right? The pull pull the changes. Also, whatever you did a clone is kind of pull, right? Because you're getting a changes, correct? But when you are getting for the first time, you use clone command because you want to copy that entire. Once your repository is copied, next time whenever you want to update your system code with whatever is there on the remote, you will use git pull to refresh your repository. You're getting my point? Okay, so now I'm finalized my changes. Now what is the next command I should be using? Git push. Is everyone on page?
Yeah.
So now the moment I do git push, what it will do, whatever I finalized my changes, now it will go ahead and add those changes on the repository. Now if I go and refresh my repository, just to show you guys, so far, if I go and just click on the refresh, see now, these two files, I simply added it now. And now if I click on this file, recently changes, whatever it will show you, right? Selenium WebDriver batch, this is new line, this here is the new line of code. This is what I added it, right? This is the new line of code, and this came here. Are you getting this? Now if you want to get these latest changes on your system, now what I'm going to do, rather than going to the file system, if I want to push this complete Selenium starter, what this complete project is, whatever I was doing, right? Or let's say if I create a new this one, I don't know which one is for you guys. So let's say if I want to push this Selenium learning, which I'll do it over the weekend. But now whatever I pushed, now you guys want to pull those changes on your machine and do some change on top of it and then push it. Then what you will do? The first thing you will do is go to this repository folder, type git pull, just hit enter, and it will try to push it, get everything up to date, and you will say, okay, for me it's already up to date. If it's not, then it will pull. Once you're done, open that file, do some changes. Once you're done with the changes, type git status, right? Once you type a git status, it will show you all the list of files you have changed. Either you include all of them by using git add, or you can exclude some of them by using git checkout. Once you finalize your thing, you say git commit. So to commit is basically just to finalize your changes, to put in something called a staging. Then once you're done with your git commit, the final you will use is git push. Is this clear? I know it may sound little too much in the beginning, but once you do a practice, you guys will be clear. Now here you will, now because I pushed something else, you want to get that changes on your system. So first thing you will type is git pull. Once you get the changes, do some changes to that file, readme file. Just do that one change in that file. and then do git add dot, then git commit, give some message, and then do git push, and then try this repetitively 2-3 times right away. It takes like 3 seconds. And then the next thing what we're going to do is we're going to actually push. I'm going to, in this same repository, what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload our actual code. So what I'm going to do is upload files. So I'm going to upload the entire repository which we were using it so far. Workspace, new Selenium practice, and also okay, so
What was it?
Options. Saurabh, how do I copy the path, file path name from Mac? Should I open in terminal and see, or?
No, right click on the path and do get info.
Yeah, it is showing in some weird format, I feel.
Yeah, that's how you at least know the path. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload the upload the entire repository for you guys.
See, branch of 220.
Is anyone pushed anything?
Not yet.